Today we're taking a look at a cult classic series of movies, actually, with some really interesting history behind it. I'm talking about Kite. This was recommended by Friendly Neighborhood Geek, who has his own YouTube channel. Go give him some love if you haven't already. Yeah, he recommended this film, Kite, and I had no idea about the rabbit hole I was about to go down and learn that it has a sequel and a live-action adaptation. Oh, we're going to talk about all this. Starting with the original though, Kite. This was a 1998 OVA, and something you have to know is there are multiple versions of this movie out there. I'm going to be talking about the edited version, which is available on Crunchyroll. It's available pretty much everywhere. But you do need to know there is another version of this movie. It has an extra 5 or 10 minutes of very explicit adult content. Yes, that kind of adult content. Again, I'm not going to be discussing this version, but it's out there. I guess the story I heard is that this was never intended to be that kind of movie. The creator couldn't find a publisher for the movie. He couldn't find anybody willing to actually help him make the movie, except for this adult animation studio, and they had some requirements. They agreed to do it, but on the condition that it has these scenes thrown in there. But Yasuomi Umetsu, the creator, the writer, the director of this film, got permission to release another version of the film without those scenes, and that's the version that's widely available, the one I'm going to be talking about here, which is like a 45-minute movie. And despite all the edits, it's still a very, very mature film, very dark. There's still some pretty disturbing stuff in there in all kinds of ways. Subject matter, blood and gore, violence, you name it. No, it's not for the kids. Make sure they're not in the room. We're going to be talking about some stuff today. So Kite is about this female assassin. She's a young woman in her teens, and she's basically working for this dirtbag. She's kind of forced into working for this guy to take down these criminals. As a younger girl, her parents were murdered, and she was taken in by this guy who's sort of like a dirty police officer or investigator. He works these crime scenes and he covers up the evidence from these assassinations that he has ordered to be committed. So he's abusing his power in the police force, and he is also abusing this girl who is being forced to work for him, at the same time making her carry out these assassinations and making her fulfill all kinds of his desires, if you get what I'm saying. It's some dark stuff, man. It is some very troubling subject matter. Now, the people she's killing are all bad guys, right? They're all criminals, they're predators, they're scum of the earth kind of thing. But so is the boss. And that was a little confusing. I don't think it was ever quite spelled out. Like, why is this guy having all these terrible people murdered when he's like the worst one of all, right? I have my ideas, but it's not really spelled out. I feel like the movie could have used a little bit more time to kind of answer some more questions. But for what it was pretty good. I'm going to try not to spoil too much here, but the whole movie you're just going to be wondering, is this girl going to see her happily ever after? Is she going to get out of this bad situation? Is she going to get away from this guy who's been manipulating her for her whole life? And is she going to get revenge for her parents' murders? And you really do just feel awful. You feel awful for this character, this girl, whose name is Sawa. You just feel awful for Sawa, man. She also has a friend in a similar situation who is a boy who is being forced to work for her boss, who is about the same age as her. His name's Oburi. They become friends pretty early on, and so you're just wondering for the two of them, are they going to make it out? What's going to happen? All throughout, though, you see some really cool action scenes. This thing wastes no time getting into some crazy stuff, man. You see, within the first couple of minutes, you see somebody's head explode. That's the kind of movie this is. Sawa uses this gun with special explosive ammunition. She basically shoots these bullets into somebody's body. They're in there for a few seconds, and then bam, they explode inside the body. And man, you see flying arms, flying hands, flying heads. You see just bits and pieces of flesh getting blown to bits all over the place. Again, you don't feel bad for the victims because they are predators and terrible people, right? So it's very satisfying. It's always very satisfying to see these action scenes. You see big explosions and chases and gunfights and all kinds of cool stuff, and lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of crazy stuff. but all those heights, those exciting bits are brought down again by just the very troubling subject matter, the very disturbing things that this girl is going through, and her tragic backstory, and just the way she's being manipulated and abused. And man, it is heavy. It is very heavy. It is very dark, and you just wonder, is she going to get revenge? Is she going to get out okay? I'm not going to tell you how it ends. I'm not going to tell you all the pivotal plot points, because it's better if you just watch it. This movie was apparently very influential. Apparently Quentin Tarantino was a big fan of this movie. One of No Doubt's music videos was based partially on the movie. Thanks Wikipedia for that random tidbit of knowledge there. Yeah, cult classic, very highly regarded, also controversial, understandably so, especially in that uncut version, which, I'm not recommending. I'm just recommending you watch the one on Crunchyroll. For the nature of this thing, the kind of movie it was originally, I'm very impressed by the production value. I think the animation is great. It's so full of style, the different shots and things. It definitely had a very skilled director at the helm. Umetsu has a very strong track record. He's worked on so many other anime over the years and over the decades. And the voice acting, I was sold on it. The music, very jazzy and cool. And yeah, great production value. I was glad I watched this thing. Again, it's a cult classic. And there was so much that was just done right here. But at the same time, I walked away from it feeling just a little sad, a little depressed, a little dirty, with a heavy soul after watching this thing, man. It's one of those. Oh yeah, and just one random little thing I wanted to throw in. I thought this was the most hilarious thing. This guy's eating French fries, and the box says, "Make Fat." That's what they came up with. The name of the fast food joint these fries were from. Make Fat. Very true. Very true. Okay. Now, anyways, so coming away from that, then I went and watched the sequel, Kite Liberator. This one came out 9 years later, all the way in 2007. And a lot of people don't like this one. I don't think it was nearly as well received as the original, for a few reasons, perhaps. It just doesn't feel like the first one, for better or worse. And in some ways, for me, that was kind of a positive thing. I said I walked away feeling very kind of down and depressed from watching the first one. This one is much more upbeat, much more positive, has a lot more humor and light moments thrown in. There's still those dark, heavy subject matters. There's still issues of, kidnapping young people and predatorial behavior, and that's what our hero is going up against. Now, this doesn't follow Sawa anymore. It follows a new girl, Monaka, who is known as the Angel of Death. That's like her secret identity. She's this assassin, and she leaves these feathers at the scene of every kill. Then by day, she's just this normal, innocent, kind of shy, timid schoolgirl, and she works at a restaurant, and she goes to school, and she's always getting in trouble for coming home late because she's working, and very cool and very lovable character at the same time. You get those mixes, though, of like the very serious, very cool action scenes where she's just kicking butt and taking names and shooting people down, and then the next scene is like she's acting all awkward and shy, and she's there with her friend, like eating ice cream and avoiding conversations. And so you get this mix. There's a lot more humor, like I say, in this one, a lot more lighthearted moments with still a pretty heavy plot. And the plot has to do with her father, who is an astronaut. He's been in space for the last 4 years. He doesn't know about what she does on the side. He doesn't know that she's an assassin. Things go awry in space. And I don't want to give away much here either and spoil the movie, but it was a surprise, man. This is not like the first movie at all. This one goes a lot of different places. It eventually turns into sort of a monster movie, more or less. You got this monster thing. You got people up in space, and I felt like I was watching Alien for a little bit, and then you're back to Earth, and Monaka's doing her thing, taking down criminals, and eventually it all comes together over the course of this. It's about an hour-long movie. And again, I would have liked it to maybe even be a little bit more longer, answer some more questions that I still have lingering in my mind, but for me it was a satisfying movie. And it was one that I didn't walk away with feeling down in the dumps, It had those serious bits, but it was a lot more easygoing. This one was never an adult movie to begin with. it still probably would be that R rating. You still get the explosive bullets, you still see people getting blown up, you see lots of blood and violence, there's a little bit of nudity, but there's none of the other really disturbing, really adult themes in here as the first one. I know I'm not just being a prude, but what makes it so disturbing in the last one was the context. None of that in here. So this one, they had plenty of funding to just make a normal movie. You got product placements in here. At one time, Monaka opens up her freezer and it's just full of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and I thought that was hilarious. This one just goes so many more places. Like I say, the animation looks great. It's 9 years ahead of the last one, and you see some CGI stuff, and which I don't really love CGI in anime, but it works. It's used sparingly, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one. A lot of people didn't like it. They thought the story wasn't as good. It wasn't as dark as the first one. I don't know. For me, not being quite as dark as the first one was a positive thing, and I liked the story. It could have explained a few more things better, but I liked it. I thought it was a good follow-up. Finally, 7 years after that, in 2014, they came out with a live-action adaptation. And I was gonna skip this altogether, especially given the 0% Rotten Tomatoes critic score. 0%, man. This has to be a bad movie, right? But then I saw Samuel L. Jackson is in it, and I'm like, my man, alright, I'm gonna watch this thing. I like Sam L. Let's see if he can save this thing. And, you know, it's not a good movie. It's just not. It doesn't really pay much respect to the original source material. They take a lot of liberal changes to this thing. They changed the story. They changed a lot of stuff about the characters, and yeah, sure, there are a couple of scenes that feel like they're almost taken straight out of the original movie. You see the elevator scene at the beginning, you see the bathroom scene. All I can say is these felt like little nods to the original movie rather than a faithful adaptation overall. It's loosely based on the original movie, and it didn't do much for me. I didn't feel anything watching this movie. It wasn't as dark as the original. There was none of that really disturbing stuff here, but still very gritty, still very mature. I just didn't feel for it. I didn't feel for the characters the same way, and it had its moments, I guess, but ultimately it's forgettable and very much skippable. So yeah, I don't think there are too many fans of this one out there. Watch it if you want, but yeah, man, again, a very interesting series of movies, very interesting history behind it. And what can I say, man? I love to experience these important cult classics and just all kinds of stuff that I missed out on before. I was way too young to watch this thing when it came out, that's for sure. Better late than never. So hey, thanks again to Friendly Neighborhood Geek for recommending this one. And for all the support, go ahead and check out his channel. Like I say, guys, give him a subscription. Very cool dude. On a side note, somebody told me the other day, it was like, you don't sound very excited. You know what? It's almost 2 in the morning over here. I'm barely with it right now, but I made a commitment to put out a video every week, and I'm going to try and stick with it. This summer is going to be a little tricky, finding time to do videos that is not way past my bedtime. So I'm trying, guys. The other part is, that's just me. I'm just not the most energetic, expressive YouTuber. I'm not like these other more popular guys, so I apologize. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty mellow. Just a nerdy guy who doesn't talk to other people much. That's only half true. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'm gonna get some sleep here in a minute. I appreciate y'all. Have a good one. See you next time.